I want their leader brought here. I want him brought to me. I want the revolution crushed.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Mamluks. My name is Sim. Along with me are my fellow co-hosts, Sheikh Amr.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
And the one and only Sheikh Umar Haqqani. Welcome.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Welcome to the show, everyone. We're glad to have you on this evening. Please help us out on patreon.com/the Mamluks. Also, be a pal and hit the old like button and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Throw a comment in the comment section below with your thoughts related to the show. Brothers and sisters, we are at the brink, as they say. I don't know why I went Arab accent there, but
It sounded more Russian. Arabic, Russian, yeah.
Yeah.
It's all correlated.
Yeah, so India responds to Pakistan, or India is claiming it was Pakistan who attacked their tourists in the Indian-held region of Belgaum province, right? And they killed about 28 tourists. And there were numerous sites that India responded with missiles, with fighter jets that came and attacked. Numerous, at least what India is claiming is military installations of supposed terrorist militant strongholds. And those also killed a number of, I think, around 30 or 40 people.
I think, yeah, almost 30 people altogether. Yeah. What they accounted for, yeah.
So, yeah, tensions are on the rise. So, these two gentlemen before me do a lot of research and reading about India and Kashmir and Pakistan.
These two gentlemen, I'm not Mort, but this guy more than me. But yeah, I mean, I just a little bit here and there.
Just peruse the books, huh? Just read the chapter headings.
You know what pisses me off? Anytime I look up, maybe you can answer this. Whenever I'm on YouTube and I'm looking at India-Pakistan conflicts, all of the Indian channels were on YouTube. It's like 10, 15. Do you get that problem too? It's all these Indian news channels, and they're so dramatic. They make them like Bollywood movies.
They're known for it.
Yeah.
That's what Indian media is known for. Not just for that, for anything that's happening. Everything is a drama for them. Everything is so hyped up, so hyper. Yeah. You cannot be... I think to be an anchor, to be a news anchor, one of the requirements is you have to be able to yell in the microphone, and in particular, you have to be yell at your guests and degrade them as well. I think that's a key requirement. Yeah. Imagine, think of, what's his name? Alex Jones on steroids.
That's true.
That's what it is.
Every news outlet, I'm trying to watch it, and I feel like I'm watching a movie. I was like, dude, give me some news. And it's all just drama.
Everything is, I mean, it's similar to the media here, but it's more amplified.
Yeah.
Everything's a breaking news.
Yeah. The music in the background, all that.
Everything is so dramatic.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter what the news is.
I know.
No one cares what the news is. It's about,
being intrigued.
That's all it is.
That's all it is. But what was your take on all this? There were so the claim was that Pakistan had employed, or these were people who were Pakistani plants that were in this tourist area. Originally, it started, I think it was 2 weeks ago, where there was an attack happened to tourists. What do you think all that is, based on your research and reading?
I think it's important for people to look at this from a historical perspective, not just that what happened 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Nothing happens in a vacuum. You have to look at it from a historical perspective. By no means I'm no expert in this, but I do a little bit of reading here and there when I have time, which I really don't have a lot of, but I try to. If you look at the history, I mean, Kashmir has been a disputed region for almost 80 years now, ever since the partition happened. We all know about the story of partition. Some people may not know. Actually, at my work, when this conversation came up a couple of years ago, I was talking to them, And I told them, like, India used to be one and then when the British left, they divided it into two. And they're like, "Oh, really? I didn't know any of this." So, I mean, for those for your listeners who may not know, that it used to be one entire country, right? When India was partitioned, out of India came Pakistan. There were two. There was East Pakistan as well, which later on I believe in 71 then became into Bangladesh, right? So out of India came Pakistan, and out of Pakistan came Bangladesh. So all three of them used to be one at one point in time. Historically, that's how it was, right? Until our friends the Brits came along and looted the place, ransacked the place, and all of
made
those
it more
things that
civilized.
happened. Oh yes. Without them, they were not surviving before that. That's why they looted the place before they left. And one of the regions that was not settled during the partition was Kashmir. The way it worked was there were many princely states that were as part of India, and the way that the British ruled was those rulers of those states, they basically were in support of the British rule. And if they pledged allegiance to them, they were allowed to do their thing as long as they remain loyal to them. And there were many states like them. The biggest one of them was the state of Hyderabad, and then Kashmir was another state as well. There were a few others as well. Hence, every Hyderabadi still is living during the time of the Nizam because they act like they still own everything. Yeah. But that's a different story. They still are living in the princely times. But that's a different thing. And one of the states was Kashmir. Kashmir was a disputed territory. It wasn't settled because they asked the king or the ruler at that time, who was a Hindu, but the majority of the population was Muslims. Up to 75% of the population of Kashmir was Muslims, but the ruler was a Hindu. So they asked him to make a decision as to which side he wants to go with, and he wanted to remain independent. Later, long story short, what happened was then he felt threatened by after the partition, the Pakistanis wanted to come in and take part of the territory. So he said he wanted to. He invited assistance from India, and India told him, sign the treaty saying you're part of India, and then we'll come and help you. And ever since then, the summary is it's been disputed. Now, Kashmir is divided in different segments. There's the Indian occupied Kashmir. There's the Pakistani occupied / controlled Kashmir. And then within there's also Azad Kashmir, which is free Kashmir, which is in the side of Pakistan, but they claim to be, they aspire to be independent.
Yeah.
If you look at all of them aspire to be independent. Like most of them are tired of being on this side or that side. They want to be independent. They want to be free of all this that has gone on for the past almost 80 years now. Now this attack that happened a couple of weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago, happened in a resort town, which is in the Indian controlled part. And for those of us who know the history, Kashmir is one of the most heavily policed areas in the world. The army that's there and the police that's there.
So the viewers are seeing. Can you exactly say where this happened?
I'm not sure. I mean, on the side of the Indian controlled Kashmir,
okay.
Right? So the orange is the one that's on the India side, and the green one is the one that's controlled by Pakistan, right?
Yeah.
So this happened in the area that is controlled by India,
yeah.
Right? So the first and foremost, even many of the Indians, they were asking the question as to how did this happen when gunmen opened fire and they killed about 26 people. When the security is supposed
Exactly.
This is one of the hottest tourist attraction or tourist locations that was there, right? The mountains, the parks, and the greenery, and all those things, and there's hundreds and thousands of tourists that are there. Where's the security, and how could this have happened? And the terrorists who attacked were so polite that they went and asked the people, each and every single, are you Muslim or not Muslim? And then they shot them and killed them. So I think that's the first question that needs to be answered. How did this happen? How can something like this happen in a heavily policed and controlled space? That's the first thing. As to how could something like this happen?
I think they compared the surveillance to China, some heavily surveilled places of China, and in Palestine and parts of Palestine. That's how close the surveillance and strong it is, and maybe even stronger.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I mean, anyone can look this up. This is one of the most militarized areas in the world.
Top 5, yeah.
But I'll take one step back. What had happened was they had come to an agreement. India had an agreement with Kashmir, basically, that they were going to let them. It was called Article 370, which gave basically Jammu and Kashmir a special status, which meant that they couldn't operate. They have some sort of autonomy that they can have. They had their own elections. They had their own constitution, and so on and so forth. But in 2019, all of that was revoked as well. And India took basically full control of it, and it's under the central government now. One of the key things was previously, because this was a disputed region, when it comes to property, for example, foreigners could not, foreigners meaning people outside of Kashmir, could not buy property. It was only for the locals there. But with the revocation of this article, that means anyone from India can buy up the property there, and it's theirs basically. So this was another major thing that happened. And if you look at history, every now and then you see these clashes happening inside Kashmir, inside Indian controlled and occupied Kashmir. If they're so happy and if they so love what's happening, then why do they need to be policed so much? And why is there so much so many restrictions on them? And many people compare this conflict of Kashmir to what's happening in Palestine.
Yes.
Even though there are major differences between them, but there are a lot of similarities as well. And there's a lot that India has learned from what's happening over there as well. Because historically, when the partition happened, India was supposed to be a secular state, right? Pakistan was supposed to be, an Islamic nation, an Islamic country, and all those things. But well, as India said, we're secular, meaning the Muslims we're all gonna live together as one big happy family.
Touted as the biggest democracy in the world, the largest democracy in the world. Yeah.
And for the longest time, they actually supported the Palestinian cause as well. Like they sided with them, they supported them.
They helped them in the '67 war.
Yeah, I mean,
there were Pakistani fighter jets that shot down.
No, I'm talking about India.
India did.
Yeah, India supported the Palestinian cause for the longest time.
Wow.
For the longest time. Now, in the past, several years, what we have seen is the rise of of an extremist movement that has taken, all of this into a different direction. Hence, you see what you see on social media about, Indians wanting to go and volunteer over there and
over there, in Palestine, yeah.
No.
Against Israelis, with the Israelis.
Yeah.
You're talking about that,
Yeah. So this is a complete shift from where the official policy was with India standing with Palestinians against with their cause against
the occupiers.
Against the occupiers, because India could have related to that because they went through the same thing. Right, they went through the same thing with the British, so they supported the cause for the longest time until we see what we see now with the rise of the extreme with extremism on the other side.
That's really interesting. I didn't know about the India actually supporting the Palestine cause. That's pretty awesome.
Look it up.
Awesome in like a very intriguing curiosity type way. But so when we come to today, I know there's a lot of history to cover. Like one thing that really I'm curious about is when you said it jokingly. They asked everybody very nicely, "Are you Muslim or are you not Muslim?" It seems like the world is kind of like people who are really involved in analysis of the situation. It seems like they're actually split in half. Some are thinking that it's something that India did to cause, internally from India to cause some type of turmoil and ruckus for the beginning of something, which I don't know how feasible that is, but again, I don't know. And some people I actually believe this is really Pakistanis that were able to come to the Indian side and cause mischievousness, right? So, like, what do you think about that? I'm not asking you to be like conspiracy theorist, but like, what's your gut feeling about that?
No, it's not me. Actually, many Indians have questioned this as well. Many Indian opposition politicians and even people from within their own party have questioned some of the things that I mentioned. The lack of security, the lack of any warning for any of the tourists, even though they said that internally they had many warnings. That
reminds you of October 7th.
Huh?
Reminds you of October 7th.
Oh. What happened on that day?
Nothing.
Okay. So anyone with half a functioning brain can see what is happening here. Can we say definitely that it was an inside job? I think that's a bit difficult, but there's a lot of explaining to do. So much so that the Indian government they come out and they have officially said that this was an intelligence failure. Well, if it was an intelligence failure, it tells us what you're doing is not working. Like you're really incompetent then. Right? I mean, they officially said that this was an intelligence failure.
Did they identify at least which?
Oh no, they got away conveniently.
Oh, so there's no name of anyone.
Wait, everybody got away?
Yeah. The attackers got away conveniently.
In the most highly surveilled place in the world.
They came. They asked the tourist, "Excuse me, sir, are you a Muslim or not?" And then, if they were not Muslim, yes, they killed them, and they got away.
Huh. I wonder if their passports were found in the rubble somewhere.
So, and then this is what Pakistan has been saying all along. Like, okay, we had nothing to do with this. I mean, that's a whole different story. There's all these, shadow movements and militias and all those that are operating. But officially, they said that we had nothing to do with this. And if you have any proof of our involvement in this, then give it to us. If not, let's invite an international team in here and let's have an investigation.
That's a great. So about 2 weeks later, then
the investigation came yesterday.
So I just wanted to show people, give them a context of how deep and Palagam is right here, okay, right next to Srinagar.
Which is well inside the Indian
way
territory.
Inside, and you see
Indian
this dotted
territory.
So this dotted line is the line of control. You're seeing around where my mouse is moving.
Yeah.
So these militants.
The line of control is the
border.
Is the temporary border that they have agreed to now.
So they came all the way inside here, and went all the way back over there. This is this is several hour drive. This is not like Chicago where it's plains and stuff. These are like mountainous regions with lots of hills and valleys and all the security over there.
Checkpoints are insane there.
So they're saying that these militants crossed all the way from there to Palagam over here, which is quite a distance.
And then if you look below, there's another town called Pulwama, right?
Yeah.
You see Pulwama. There was another attack that happened there a few years ago as well.
Oh.
A similar attack where a bunch of soldiers were killed as well, and many had doubts about that as well, as to how come we keep having these intelligence failures.
In the heart of that area too. That's crazy. So then moving forward, India originally doesn't call it a retaliation, but just happens to. Because usually those type of retaliations are almost immediate. This happens 2 weeks later, where India ends up bombing up parts of Pakistan, right? And there happens to be some areas and masjids that are prominent to understood people who were a part, like Masood Azhar's name came back up into the media.
Historically, who've been tied to some extremist movements, right?
His masjid was bombed. I think so. His family members were killed too, right? And we have, I think he said the official number is like 29 that died in Rajon. But then India retaliates with shooting down, I think it's 2 planes, right, or 3 planes.
No. This all happened. This all happened in the same event, right? India had launched missiles. They launched missiles. That was part of this attack. They said they launched in about 5, or officially I think they said between 8 to 9 targets inside Pakistan and Pakistan-controlled Kashmir. While as Pakistan said only 5 sites were targeted. And as part of this attack, now Pakistan said that they have, as part of their ongoing attack, as part of India's ongoing attack, Pakistan claims that they have downed 5 jets and 1 drone. Now, this is if this is confirmed, this is major news and major accomplishment for them to be able to down 5 jets.
No,
they have?
I don't believe that 5 jets.
Do they have the capability? Yes, they do.
No, because 5 fighter jets in military history, that would be unprecedented in one single mission. That all like 5 fighter jets got knocked out. It's
if you have
especially a Rafale. Rafale is like the one that France confirmed that a Rafale jet was shot down. Rafale is like a top 5 fighter jet or type 7. It's up there. It's in the top 10 definitely. And these knocking down those type of jets are not easy.
You can have the best jets in the world, okay, but it also depends on the type of training and the type of the pilot that is flying the flight as well. Yeah. Actually, India has officially confirmed that 3 of their jets crashed. I wonder if they're using the same terminology as many of the American aircrafts that made hard landing in Iraq and Afghanistan. I wonder if they're using the same terminology that they had crashed. So officially they're saying 3. Okay, Pakistan has said 5. I think it's only a matter of and India has not denied this. They have not denied this. Okay, part of the issue is the regions where they have been brought down supposedly are either hard to reach or they're so deep inside Indian territory that verifying it for Pakistan is a bit challenging. And as a matter of fact, one of the leading papers in India, which is called The Hindu, they had put this out yesterday about 3 aircrafts being downed, but then they took it down. The Hindu is a national is a leading national publication. It's not just some random.
But Reuters is confirming 3, or at least is reporting that the local administration in Jammu and Kashmir are reporting that 3 fighter jets crashed.
Yeah.
So
I mean, they're saying crash, right? And they're saying they were brought down.
I mean, crash, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's semantics. They're going to try to say, a mechanical failure, hard landing, all kinds of different ways to soften the blow. But 3 fighter jets being knocked down is huge.
There you go.
And so let's say how much do each one of those cost, too?
Oh, these are like 60, 70, hundreds of millions, maybe.
But the hardware that India has, most of it, majority of it, has been from the Soviet era. But they've been upgrading now recently with the French jet. But the other jets that they have are the Russian the Russian jets, whereas Pakistan doesn't have. They have different ones,
Yeah, the Rafale fighter jet costs $125 million.
And they just signed I believe they had signed another agreement recently to purchase more.
Now, were all of them Rafales?
No.
Oh, okay.
Sukhoi, I think, was another one that they said that they had shot down. Not all of them were.
Rafale is a fighter jet. It's like the best one that France makes.
Their stock was a little down this morning.
Yeah.
I saw that.
Oh, was it?
Yes.
Wow.
That's why I have him here today, brother.
Yeah, that's why he's smiling today.
Hey, I'm just reading the news.
I know you are. We all read the news too. Yeah. So what comes of this now? Obviously, Pakistan retaliates, says it's down, was downing. Now,
how does it retaliate though?
The next
well, this is part of the retaliation. Does Pakistan just say, "Hey, we knocked out their fighter jets. We knocked down 3 of them. Let's just assume that 3 is confirmed." Do they say, "Okay, we got our revenge," or do they say, "No, we're going to come back and take out more people," or do we just say, we're going to do a fireworks show, blow some munition depots and stuff, and we want to de-escalate from here on. We don't want to invite another response back from India. My feeling is that they're going to respond with a type of a soft blow where they're going to blow up some military installations. They'll probably call up India ahead of time and tell them, like, hey, you better empty out your personnel from these sites. Where these are rules of engagement or called brinksmanship, where they want to figure out a way for an appropriate response without looking weak. So the public wants to see blood, right? Yeah. So Pakistanis want to see like real real response, right? Yeah. And similarly, you saw this with Iran as well. Like during when Israel was attacking Iran had to figure out a way to send an appropriate response to satisfy the public. Their media is going to pump it up to their people and say like, hey, we made Tel Aviv lit on fire, and all kinds of fiery language that will make the Iranians look good and show that they've sent the appropriate response. But also the government will know that, hey, you know what, let's face the facts, Pakistan can't handle a war right now. They're economically not strong enough, and I don't think the will is there even among the politicians who are leading the country. They're lining their pockets. They're making a lot of money while the average Pakistani is suffering. So I don't think these guys want to hurt their pocketbooks by getting into a wider regional conflict that could potentially hurt their revenue, right?
Yeah. So I think, remember when I was talking to you earlier, the retaliation, the motive usually is going to be for the sake of nationalism, right? And even if we backtrack a little bit, look, when incidences like this happen, there's an incident with this, with the killings and all that. A retaliation has to be shown, revenge has to be shown to the people to save face. But what happens to the airwaves and the people, there's so much movement and people just, and this is kind of something that's invited. Have like millions of people talking about this, have millions of people anxious, keep them on their toes, keep them really, really like, losing even sleep over this for analyzing everything that's happening. But what happens in the meantime with people that are caught up in this, they're almost kind of forgotten about. And now you have even cooler titles like, are we on the brink of nuclear warfare? Like people talking about this. And the problem is they seem serious when they're talking about this on all these news outlets. And the average person, when they see it, they're like, oh my God, are we on the brink of nuclear warfare? And they're not going they're not going to have nuclear warfare over something like this. But it's something that has to be thrown out there, right? And when that's thrown out there, people are living in crazy suspense. Meanwhile, something else is happening, right? That's kind of how my mind thinks. What's cooking? What is this something just as small as an attack that happened and they're getting revenge, or is something else at play? Is there another game at play here? Based on your observation of what you see in India and Pakistan politics, is it just as simple as this? It's just going to be this, and it's one and done, and then people are going to forget about it, and then another few years something else can happen? Or is there something else is there the reason why I talked about the Israel October 7th analogy is there something else as of right now that India is inviting Pakistan into because they want them to bite back so that India can fight back?
No, I think, look, the extremist government that's in power in India now, which has been for the past 8-10 years now, they need something or someone to continue scaring the people with. Okay, and that's in this case that's the extremists from Pakistan, or the supposed terror attacks that keep happening every now and then, even though it keeps happening in their own territory where they are under control and they have security and all of those things, and they keep having security lapses. But that's a different story. But I think they need to continue having this. As far as is Pakistan going to respond or not, I think it's a wait and see approach right now, because if it's confirmed that they did indeed down these number of jets, which it seems like at the very minimum it's 3, that's a huge victory for them and for their morale. And the same thing happened a few years ago too. If you recall, they had downed some of the Indian jets, and then the pilot had bailed out, and they invited the pilot over and they gave him some chai and everything. That was a huge story that came, and then they had released him. So I think Pakistan has to look at the the morale and also the sentiments of the people as well, because I think it's a little bit different between the example that you gave of Iran and calling them ahead of time and then sending the drones, and it took the drones like 30 hours to get there. I think it's a little bit different, because if there's one thing that anyone knows anything about the history of India and Pakistan, they know that this has been drilled into their minds on both sides, both India and Pakistan, this extreme nationalism, right? Which shockingly only exists when they're in India or when they're living in Pakistan. You go overseas, for example, here, some of the closest friends, some of the best friends that you have are from across the border, right? I mean, that extremism doesn't exist here, but over there it exists, because it's a way for them to. This is the way that they've been brought up, right? Like, this is the way, this extreme nationalism that has been drilled into the people's minds, and
it's more dear to them than a religion.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Even right now, I mean, so I think this is not about defending Islam or anything. In my opinion, this is about defending our country. This is defending Pakistan, and if that's not if they cannot even do that much, then what can they do? Right? Forget about defending anything else, anyone else. This is about defending our own country that our ancestors had fought and died for. Like Jinnah, this is what he fought for, and he established a separate Muslim nation for the Muslims. Now we can, and that's under attack now from our sworn enemy. And you're telling me that we can't even defend ourselves now? So I think, there are a lot of. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of stuff that happens in behind the scenes, no doubt about that. But I think this is not the same as the other conflicts. And I mean, just to give you an example of, as I was mentioning before we came on the air, this extreme nationalism that exists on both sides. Recently, one of the scholars in India, he was giving a speech. This is prior to the response, the attack yesterday. This is prior to India's attack on Pakistan yesterday. This is his thing to.
I'm going to put it on.
Put it on, but let me just line it up, because it's in Urdu, right?
Yeah.
Because this person, he's somewhat popular in some of the segments of the society, but he's got a good following. Okay, he says to the Indian authorities, he's in India, he lives in India, he's telling the Indian authorities.
By the way, he's a Muslim living in India.
Yeah, yes. a Muslim scholar living in India, telling the authorities that let the scholars go and be at the border, and they will take care of defending the border. And they will do such a great job that even
of defending India
and the border, that even if Jibreel alayhi salam wants to come to India from Pakistan, he won't be able to.
4 साल की छुट्टी दे दो, किसी को बॉर्डर में न खलाओ, हम उलमा को मदरसे वालों को खड़ा दो, उसके बाद मुल्क की ऐसी हिफाजत करेंगे, जिब्राइल भी पाकिस्तान जाकर आए तो आने नहीं देंगे, जिब्राइल भी पाकिस्तान जाकर आए तो जाने नहीं देंगे। गर्ज मेरे दोस्तों, अभी हम लोगों ने मस्जिदों से और घरों से निकल.
This is the type of people that Modi loves from the Muslims.
Uncle Tom's.
Yeah. These guys love these type of guys. As long as they have deals to make with these type of scholars, they love this, bro.
How do you even graduate? Where did he graduate from, this guy?
Forget about graduate as a Muslim, bro. My 5-year-old, my 4-year-old would know not to say that, bro.
No, but look, I think most of the Muslims do not see anything wrong with this, to be honest. And they have a...
In India or just in general?
In India as well. In India.
Did Jibreel comment?
Huh? Wait,
did Jibreel comment? Or
comment?
The
no,
nationalism thing?
The nationalism.
Yeah, the nationalism.
The Jibreel comment is really...
I know.
It's crazy.
I've met Muslims that hate Pakistanis more than they hate the Hindus, bro.
Yeah. But look, I think, again, you have to look at this from a historical context as well, because the struggle for freedom against the British occupation, the ulama, they played a huge role in that.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the foundation of one of the leading schools in the world today? How were they founded, and why were they founded?
Yeah.
Yeah, Deoband, right?
What were they founded for?
Yeah,
they were
to revive.
Revive, and they were founded. Their history is that they stood up against the British occupation, and hundreds of scholars had made sacrifices for the sake of liberating themselves from the occupation.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you put it from that perspective, they see nothing wrong with this. Oh, this is what we're supposed to do. But okay, on the other side, you have people who are just like you and I, okay, who have been divided by an artificial border, and whom the politicians are playing on both sides.
Yeah,
on both sides.
That's very important to understand. Yeah.
And people don't look at it from that perspective. It's this extreme nationalism that has taken root in both sides, that for them, this is priority. Forget about them being Muslim or not Muslim, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I saw that sentiment very much so, to the point where sometimes you hear Muslims in India, because I've been to India. I'm originally Indian, so I've seen that.
Right now you're a traitor. It sounds like you're a traitor to me.
Definitely am to some people. But I was like, man, am I talking to a Hindu right now? Or am I talking to a Muslim? Like the way he despises Muslims of Pakistan, and just he's willing to side with Hindu nationalists. I've heard people say that before. You can look at some YouTube videos where we'll side with the RSS and we'll side with these BJP guys if we have to fight Pakistan. We'll be on their side because we're Indians, right? And that's very problematic. Obviously very problematic. And that's why nationalism is a horrible disease, man.
People tend to forget, right? Like, this border came into existence in 1947, right?
Yeah.
Before that, we're all the same. We're still the same. Yeah. Like, this is an artificial border that was created by the British, who brought in an attorney. Okay, his name was Cyril Ratcliffe, I believe that's his name. Okay. He was brought over from England. He had never left England in his life ever before. He was brought there, and he was given the task, draw the border between these two places. And it took him a few weeks. He went there, he drew the border, and he left.
That's kind of disgusting. Everything's based off of Sir Ratcliffe.
I mean, the problem of nationalism, it seems like it only occurs on the geographical location where most of the desis are as well. For example, if you're overseas, if you're working in the Gulf, everyone is brothers and we love each other. India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, we're all in this together. But as soon as you board that plane and you're on the way back,
that's a great observation.
Yeah.
Even here, right? Yeah, do you see that kind of stuff here? I mean, I think in certain settings you do, but in most of the places you don't.
I know. So what happens now? Like moving forward, before we move on to our next topic, like what do you think? Where do you think this is going to go? You think this is just like, as Sim was saying, it's a one and done and bam?
Yeah, I don't think Pakistan is not going to retaliate, because I think they already indicated we will retaliate at a time of our choosing, which means probably not right now.
Yeah. What about you, Sim?
Yeah, like I said earlier, I think a majority of the people who are in power, not every single person, but the power players in Pakistan, they're busy lining their pockets. We know they're very corrupt. They don't have any room for maintaining honor, maintaining the dignity. They may do a little bit just to show to the public, like, hey, we responded, throw up a big fireworks show like Iran did. But I don't see anything beyond that. I mean, this is a crazy clown world now. I nothing would surprise me, but I would be extremely surprised if Pakistan escalated to a point where they had to they're going to go on a path of war, and I just, that kind of a situation would only happen by governments that are really weak and about to collapse, in order to shore up support and bring national pride back and try to get the support of the public back. That's the kind of a move that kind of a government would do. I don't think Pakistan is as unpopular as many of those politicians are. I don't think they're at that point where they're facing a violent revolution. But
They already said it. They already said we're not looking for a wider conflict. We don't want to escalate.
Yeah,
this.
the only rational reason, at least from their perspective, from a politician's perspective, to escalate it to a war, would be to preserve your own power, so that the public is behind you. Like if you're losing support, you're not taking care of the people. Their needs aren't being met, which they aren't. And throughout Pakistan, if anyone's following any of the news over there, people are struggling to pay the electricity bills because power is so expensive now. The situation is very dire, and the average person is being pushed to the limit. So if there is a response that is directing them to war, it could be like a diversionary tactic where the people's attention is taken off the politicians, but to a wider enemy, a larger enemy. Like imagine if aliens invaded Earth. Would a lot of the conflicts that are happening in the world be happening? Probably not, because we got an external enemy, right?
Yeah.
That's how a politician would think, like, hey, let's get the public distracted with this war, and do our best to maintain power. That's the only rational reason, even though it's not the right reason. It's just in their interest, in a politician's rational reason, because people don't act illogically. They don't do things like haphazardly without purpose. If there was purpose behind it, it would probably be that, because I don't see any other gain that they would have. I think we saw that even during Imran Khan's time, when Pakistan, when India removed the autonomous status off of Kashmir, off of their region of Kashmir. They said, well, it's basically India now, and they're going to be moving in Hindu people into Kashmir and try to repopulate that region. You saw that Pakistan didn't respond, and this is it's a state of the Pakistani socioeconomic situation. They just don't have that power. They're a nuclear power enemy, or they're both nuclear powered nations who are fully capable of defending each other, but are they at that point? I just don't think so. Yeah. And it's I mean, part of it is a relief too. We don't want war, right? We don't want, because that would cost hundreds of thousands of lives between both nations. Yeah. Both people would suffer immensely. I mean, no one wants that either. We want peaceful resolution of the crisis.
Yeah.
I mean,
depending on who's going to get involved too. I wonder what the comparison would be with that war in Russia and Ukraine, right? But at least Uncle Trump was sad about both of them, because he likes both of them. He loves India and he loves Pakistan, and he was sad that they're in conflict and he wants it to end ASAP. So you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on Twitter today, and the Pakistani kids on Twitter, they're screaming for blood. They want to go to war. That's great. You want to go to war, but I'm not saying that you would lose or anything. I'm saying there's a terrible cost to it. There is. And I'm not sure how much your appetite is for that. Before you end up losing and possibly lose all of Kashmir.
Yeah.
So that there is that it's a double-edged sword. And when part of the reason why these state actors have this kind of a cooling off period after an attack is to gather their emotions, make sure that they're not doing something irrationally. And so that's why they figure out an appropriate response. Or at least one of the reasons why they do that.
Appropriate. What a beautiful word. But yeah, I mean, what else is on your mind, Mr. Traveler?
Sheikh Omar has been up and about stealthily, without telling anyone, his closest confidants. Maybe we're not even his closest.
Radar.
But he has been making trips to the Holy Land, to the Haramain.
MashaAllah.
And you can tell us about what you've been up to,
if you like.
But there's an entire podcast that we're planning on this, so he's just giving you a sneak preview about what he's going to be discussing, inshallah, in the future.
And don't just say you have to wait and watch for us to know Just give us a little bit.
You have to wait and watch because we're going to talk about a lot of things. Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had blessed me immensely. I was able to visit a lot of historical places that are related to the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And one of the major things that I was able to do was I was able to retrace and walk the route of the hijrah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam from Mecca to Medina. And that was an experience that we would probably require several episodes to talk about that. In addition to that, I was able to visit many of the other historical places as well that are again related to the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that previously were not accessible or was very difficult for one to go. And this is one of the positive things, if you want to call it that has come out in the past several years, that a lot of the historical sites that were either demolished, taken down, or were not accessible to the people are open now. For example, I went all the way to Tabuk as well, retracing the route that the Prophet ﷺ had taken, the army had taken to Tabuk. I was able to visit another place, another city called Najran. Najran is not related to the seerah of the Prophet. It is related indirectly because the surah that talks about in the Quran of Surah Al-Buruj that is mentioned in the Quran happened in that place, and there's a lot of things that you can see in that location that I was able to visit as well. So similarly, I was able to visit a lot of the places that things that you read about in the seerah, that you hear about, but to actually be there and to experience it and witness it is a completely different thing.
That's beautiful. That's amazing. Yeah, and obviously, I don't know how much footage you have, or you can
he has a lot.
Podcast. Maybe we could do something to set that up because I know that you have probably gigabytes worth of footage for our viewing, but we're probably not going to be able to get through all of it. But I'm pretty sure you can pick and choose wisely, and
we're gonna, inshallah, I think we're gonna have a multi-parted episode series on this, so that the people on YouTube can fully experience it without being rushed through.
Yeah, that's
everything.
really important.
So we don't know exactly how many episodes it's gonna take, but we'll go through it all and give it its due.
Yeah, and how long did it take you to put this? I mean, the presentation portion, is it completely refined, or are you still kind of working on it? And
no, so I have a lot of footage. I have close to almost a terabyte of of pictures and videos. Not all of it has been refined. Not all of it has been processed. But I do have.
Serious? Joking?
No, I'm
terabyte.
No, I saw it.
I'm serious. It's.
No, I didn't, even before the show. I didn't know that. This is the first time hearing this.
Well, it depends on the quality that you're recording in.
No, I understand that, but I didn't know you were near a terabyte. It's a lot of information.
Let's say that the people that were with me were not happy with me for a lot of the parts of the journey because I was always behind.
You were nerding out, bro. That's important.
I was always behind. So there's a lot of planning that went into it.
Yeah.
A lot of preparation that went into it. And so many things that I learned in the journey, because the hijrah of the Prophet ﷺ is one of those things that is, quickly glanced over in many of the books of the seerah.
Yeah.
Many of the books of the seerah.
Big time.
And lectures as well. There's only certain things that everyone talks about, and then you move on. But the entire journey was much more than that, and to be able to actually go through the same route that the Prophet ﷺ did, to experience, as close as possible, because I can never say that I experienced the same thing that the Prophet ﷺ went through, right? But to be able to be in some of the actual locations where that the Prophet ﷺ was, is a completely different experience. Like, there are no words that I can say that can explain it, or to put it into perspective. It's very hard. It's very hard for me.
I'm going to ask you to stop right there because I have a feeling that we're going to get into this.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to start having more questions as you say that. But alhamdulillah, we just finished.
Do you know? Well, at least just related to that, do you know if because there was a bounty hunter named Suraqa, right?
Yeah.
Who was after the Prophet and Abu Bakr. Is there a different path he took? Do you know, like, to the point where he gave up and turned back?
Yes. Yeah, we went through that part as well.
Yeah.
Look, it's very difficult for someone to pinpoint the exact location of where that happened, but you know the general area that it happened in, right? So yes, we went through that area as well. And I mean, I to be honest, like, I actually took off my shoes and stepped on it so I could feel, because that was a miraculous thing that happened, for the earth to open up and to swallow the horse that he was riding on. It just doesn't happen like that, right? So I mean, those are things that you can experience that gives it a completely different perspective, give it a different understanding, that these are some things that you will never be able to forget for the rest of your life.
And the awesome thing is, look, and I think people have to understand this. I think this is probably the last thing we should say, because I feel like we're going to get really into it. The production that took place was mainly all by you. You had a GoPro, you had a drone, and your camera phone, and that's it.
Yeah.
And with all of that, you have a terabyte of footage, which is amazing. And that requires not just going through the terrain and being patient with the terrain, but also making sure that you're getting the right recording and all that kind of stuff. I think that's really awesome, mashallah. I think it's going to set a precedent. I think that's kind of what you're probably hoping for too. And we talk about in the podcast of how feasible it is for maybe people to take that journey eventually.
There are many things that we can talk about. Yes, in the podcast we can talk about what if, lessons learned, and what if someone else wants to go on this, or how can they do it. We can talk about all of that when we do this, inshallah.
And I think the most important part is, the awesome thing is, even though we talk on a regular basis, we're on our own WhatsApp groups and stuff, but we had no idea that this was even happening.
I didn't share this with anyone. The only people that knew about this was my family knew, because I told them, and then my parents knew about it, and I told them that 1 week before I left.
Did you not want to jinx it? What's the reason why? I know we don't believe in jinxes. I'm just joking, but what was the reason behind the secrecy?
Multiple reasons. Look, something like this, you don't want to...
You don't want to invite Suraqa hunting you.
No. I mean, don't share the news until until you've done it.
Yeah, okay.
Plus, people have interesting way of looking at things. Couple of people, that I had spoken to before I left, I had to disclose it to them for logistical reasons or some other reasons, and their first reaction was, why are you doing this? Are you crazy? Like, don't you have anything better to do? So
people don't understand the brutality of the deserts over there, of that climate. Like when I got out with him, with the Sheikh Umar at the Battle of Badr site, it was like 120 degrees. It was scorching hot. It felt like my feet were melting, or my slippers or whatever I was wearing was melting on the pavement.
With the hot sand, sand. It's like your feet are baking in it.
Yeah, I can't even begin to describe that kind of heat. It felt like hell. I'm like, how did people go to war in this kind of weather? It just seems so inhospitable. Did they all agree to, let's fight at night when it's cooler, or are there rules of engagement? It's not cool to fight in this type of.
No, but not only that, bro. You kind of understand. Like, you understand how a terrain builds people, right? And you see how much they've accomplished. We would think, how are they doing it with that heat and that intense? It's not just about heat. It's about sand. It's about the landscape. It's about all those things. But you realize for them to survive and be productive in that environment tells you how strong those people were because of their environment. They had to overcome it. And it's obviously the way they're brought up. I don't want to take anything away from them, but it just lets you know, like, how strong and resilient those human beings were that grew up in those type of conditions. People were in the complete opposite, who grew up in like the negative 70 degrees up those parts of Siberia, and the type of people whose car I was talking about this with my kids, they have to keep their cars on forever. They can't turn their cars off. Like, imagine the type of resilience those type of people have, right?
Yeah.
But it's really, really interesting, I think, in the sense of when you have love for Rasulullah, people will do certain things that end up being very miraculous in nature, right? To us, it's like the thought never crossed my mind of ever doing the route in the Hijrah of Rasulullah, right? But then when somebody does it, then you get it. Like, you're not going to be like, oh, that person's crazy. You're going to say, man, if it wasn't for that person doing that, then we wouldn't get a glimpse of what it was like to be for Rasulullah and Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, right? And we only get that through the hadith. We get that through multiple things, and obviously sending salawat on Rasulullah, we get that love. But then when something like this happens, a journey happens, then you're like, man, what was in the hadith that we know, we have somebody with us that did it, right? So it's awesome to get that type of feedback to actually crystallize more the level of Rasulullah within your heart, right? That's how I look at it, right? And I see that these things obviously are gems, and I don't think everybody's going to be able to do it. It's a favor from Allah. Like, not everyone can go to Hajj, right?
Yeah.
But whoever thought of tracking the path to of the Hijrah, right? You never hear anybody talking about it.
Yeah. I was surprised.
This is something that has been historically documented by various scholars, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is scholars and historians have written about this throughout history. Historically, it's been there in bits and pieces, right? And more recently, some of the contemporary scholars have gathered all of those things, and they've used technology, satellite data, and those types of things, and they've refined it even more.
Yeah,
that's what has happened. So
have scholars of the past, like, I'm not talking about more recent, but in the past, a few hundred years ago or whatever, have they done this type of journey before, or have you
I don't know if they've done. I have not come across anyone who has done the entire journey.
Yeah.
But I know historically many scholars have who specialized in this have written about which particular route that he would have taken in a specific segment of the journey. That comes from ahadith and historical knowledge from the locals, from the tribes who are living in that area. Some of them, some of the locations still have the same name. Some of them don't have those names anymore.
Yeah.
So those who are really into this, because look, this is this part of the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ has to do with history, right? It's not about the preservation of wahi or the Quran or anything, right? It's a historical context. So a lot of role that was played in this was more from the historians than from the mufassirin or the muhaddithin or those types of things. So it requires a special
no, that's an important detail to know, just separating that out. But people have done Hajj on foot before.
Yeah.
And I know that we're coming towards Hajj now, Hajj season. End of, I think, Dhul Hijjah starts in the end of May 2025.
Beginning of June, people.
Yeah.
Right in the first part of June.
Yeah. So, just a little bit of, maybe if we just even finish off with something of just of some type of Hajj. Are you doing Hajj this year? Or
this year, I was originally looking to go. I was planning on going, but it looks like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has different plans for me that I am not invited this year.
Yeah. No, and the reason why I ask is you had a Hajj and Umrah group too.
Yeah.
That's why I used to take people.
No,
I was, just curious about that.
No, I had every intention of going, but it looks like it might not happen for me this year.
Alhamdulillah.
But, alhamdulillah, for everything happens for a reason. There are other things that are happening in my life right now, which may seem like this is probably the best that could happen for me right now.
Yeah.
But I do have Hajj seminars coming up.
Yes.
That I can plug in. This Saturday,
we didn't talk about this. Why are you plugging it now? Well, you didn't tell us about this.
This Saturday, I have Hajj seminar at Masjid al-Huda at 5 p.m. For those who are in the Chicagoland area, and then on Sunday I have it after Dhuhr at the Des Plaines Masjid. So those who are looking to go for Hajj, if you'd like to attend these seminars, I would urge you to do that, because the things that we're going to talk about is based on years and years of experience and practical things that are related to the rituals of Hajj.
Yeah, very simplified. I'm not just saying that because he's here, but it's a very, very simplified process. I know over the chats we were talking about like easy. When we say easy, meaning the process is made very easy. Obviously, Hajj is not easy, but the process, when you take the confusion out and the ease of the process. So you said, so that is May 10th at 5 p.m. at Masjid al-Huda, right, in Schaumburg. And on May, where am I?
The Sunday.
Yeah, May 11th, same weekend.
Yes.
At Masjid?
ICCD Des Plaines.
Okay. In Des Plaines, Potter.
Yes.
Potter Mosque. And that's at what time?
After Dhuhr.
After Dhuhr. Very good. Awesome.
The only thing I would tell your audience is, look, those who are going for Hajj, first, Mabruk, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose you out of the millions and millions across the world who may have been trying to go or who want to go, who have not been able to go for whatever reason, okay? That's a huge thing for you to recognize. Second, you need to do the preparation before you go for Hajj. If you don't do the preparation, you're not going to have a good experience. There's no other way for me to put that to you. Preparation in every aspect of the journey. Preparation from the physical preparation, from the spiritual preparation, and everything else in between. If you don't do that prep, if you think that, come June 1st, you're just going to, June 1st, you're just going to take the flight and go there and everything is going to work out, it doesn't work that way. You need to do the prep work. You need to prepare for it mentally, spiritually, physically. If you do, then you're going to benefit. Otherwise, it's just, unfortunately, that I see some of the brothers and sisters doing that. It's just one more obligation has been, lifted off of me, and, I've done my thing.
Do it with some heart. Do it with something like you really want to do.
You need to make the effort.
Even if that was the mindset, you're like, because look, we're in that, we are in, and it's not just an American thing, it's everywhere now, and it has been for a long time. I need to get this done. I'm going to get it done the best and fastest, most efficient way possible. And I've been paying people to help me through this, which is my Hajj group, and they're going to take care of everything for me, right? Yeah, in a worldly situation, that would be cool, but when it comes to Hajj, and I know it's not easy, everyone's busy with a lot of things, just put a little bit of your heart into it and do it because it's an obligation. I mean, think about what Aisha radiallahu anha said to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She said, Ya Rasulullah, there's all of these verses in the Quran and all these incentives for men about jihad. What is it? What do women have that's like that? Such a beautiful question, right? And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said an accepted Hajj, right? So the Hajj is not something to be taken lightly, and we're not saying anybody does, but it's not too late to get your heart into it. And what makes it easy is, I think, I'm not just saying this because you're here. The guide that you have, I'm not making this up. I think it's the most simplest and easiest to follow, because I think you have two different versions of it. One is just whoever needs to get something done, this is how you get it done. It's something that's with you all the time. And then towards the end, or another version, maybe towards the end of the book, I think you separated it, is with all the historical evidences and the evidences Islamically and the du'as, whatever else needed. But sometimes if you just have bullet points, do this, do that, do this, it actually makes the ibadah a lot easier for you, rather than trying to figure out, oh my God, I'm so confused, which am I supposed to do? And the ibadah is almost finished and you didn't have any khushu in it, right? So I think that the presentation that you're going to have at these masjids, are you going to be giving them a book, or are you
they'll have an ebook of the presentation at the end of the presentation, which Beautiful. I've been giving for the past few years now.
That's amazing. And I think you've been refining it and working on it and I think it's really, really important.
Yeah, I've been working on it. I've been collaborating with some of my other scholars that I know as well, getting their feedback on it as well. Because the reason I've put this together is because I've noticed this, and I've come across this, and others have shared this with me too, that many of the seminars that they attend, well, either in person or virtual, or lectures and talks that they've listened to, or even books that they've read, the information is just so overwhelming that by the end of it, they're left so confused and overwhelmed, and they're so scared. Like, this is not a journey that you should be going on where you're scared every step of the way that, if what if, am I doing this right or not? Am I making a mistake or not? Do I have to pay a penalty or not? The many who go through this as well, like, because they know this is a journey of a lifetime. For a majority of them, they're probably not going to go for Hajj again, right? For most of the people, Hajj is a journey of a lifetime, right? They're going to do it once. And they are so overwhelmed with so much information. Many people go into, in my opinion, they go into so much unnecessary depth and necessary information that it does not benefit the common folk, right? That should be discussion between the scholars. I mean,
that's a great observation. Yeah,
I'll just give you one example, right? Like Salah, right? Salah, we pray 5 times a day. We know that there are valid differences of opinion when it comes to Salah. Salah, an act that we do on a daily basis that every Muslim does. There's so many different valid differences of opinion based on the evidence based on the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, right? For example, the recitation of Surah Fatiha, the placement of the hand, the Rafa' Yadayn, and all of those things. And we say all of them are correct, right? Because all of them have the evidence for that. And Salah is just one example. One act that you do 5 times a day is the same act that you do at the bare minimum 5 times a day, right? You look at Hajj. Hajj is a ritual that we are doing over a period of a certain number of days. Imagine the number of differences of opinion that are going to be in that time. And if you try to go through all of them, you're going to be frustrated and you're going to be overwhelmed.
Yeah. And
you're just going to be waiting until the end of the Hajj and say, alhamdulillah, I got it done, and that's it. So I noticed that a lot from a lot of the material that I've come across, whether it's seminars, whether it's books, whether it's lectures. It's for people to find a simplified version of all of those things, which is consensus of most of the scholars that agree on all those things. I did not find that, so hence I took the responsibility of putting that together. And the other thing is, in terms of putting this together, I forgot.
As far as I remember you were discussing maybe it's something related to having certain type of leeway of having an out, even as far as combining the prayers or.
Oh no! What I was going to say was, look, many people rely on books, which is good. You should, because these are based on knowledge, authentic traditions that have been passed down from generation to generation, all the way leading to the Prophet ﷺ. No doubt about that. We should rely on them. But in modern times, it's important for us to look at the practical reality on the ground as well, and make your decision based on that. And that comes from experience. That comes from the scholars who go on Hajj on a regular basis. They are the ones who are best positioned to give you advice on what you can and what you cannot do, and what you should and what you should not do. If you stick to books that, like for example, if I stick to a book that was written 100 years ago, even 100 years ago, the world has changed. The world has changed in the past 5 years. And I'm saying 5 years because there's a 2-year pause for Hajj due to COVID, right? Hajj before COVID, it was a completely different experience. Hajj after COVID is a completely different experience. So there's a lot of things that are not under your control anymore, and you have to be able to adapt to that, and the Sharia gives us the flexibility of doing that. If people can understand that, things are going to be much, much easier for them.
Since you talked about COVID, I actually had this question. Hajj was closed off, but was there anybody, there obviously were a group of people performing Hajj though, right? At the time, a small group of people that were allowed to, or Hajj was just not allowed?
No, the first year of COVID, no one was allowed from outside, even inside. Not everyone was allowed. A very small number of people were allowed. A very small number. I think it was in the hundreds. I think 500 to 600 at the most. The first year. The second year, it was in the thousands. That was also internally as well. And then the third year was, they opened it up from outside, but it was a limited number of people.
And controlled and everything.
But now it's anyone and everyone. Forget about Hajj. Even for Ramadan this year, they had a record number of people in Ramadan.
Yeah.
What's about 4 million people, which is insane.
That's insane. And the train that goes from Jeddah to, is it Medina or Jeddah and Mecca?
It goes from Jeddah through Mecca to Medina.
To Medina. So you can get from Jeddah to
Airport.
Medina.
There's a train station right inside Jeddah Airport. You can get off the plane, get on the train, and go straight to Mecca if you like, or go straight to Medina if you like.
Half an hour from beginning to end? From Jeddah to Mecca?
From Jeddah to Mecca, it takes you about 35 minutes or so, because there's one stop on from the airport. Yeah, it's a really nice train.
Oh, they're going to do it. If Saudi's going to do a train, they're going to do it real nice. So what about from Jeddah to Medina?
Well, people usually go from either Jeddah to Mecca, or they take it from Mecca to Medina. Mecca to Medina is about 2 hours 15 minutes, which is a huge thing compared to how it was before. You take the road journey, especially during busy season, which was Ramadan or Hajj time. I mean, Ramadan, I remember when we used to go before train, it took us easily, for anywhere between 4 to 6, or even a couple of years, it took us 8 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. This is all, a huge thing. Look, you can say whatever you want about, some of the other things the government is doing and all of those things, Okay, no one is going to dispute with you on those things, okay? But you have to give credit where credit is due, because a lot of these facilities that are being provided for the Hujjaj have made the experience, it has changed a lot, especially in the past 5 years.
Yeah, man. So, check out those seminars. Other than this weekend that's coming up in Masjid al-Huda and Potter Masjid, are there any other seminars you have, or is the only two you have pre-Hajj?
No, as of right now, these are the only ones. I already had one last weekend. I had one at a masjid called Amco in Lake in the Hills.
That's right. Okay.
I already had that last weekend. So this weekend it's these two coming.
And usually, like for instance, what was the turnout like? Are people?
It's a good number of turnout, and you can watch it on online as well. And then you have
live stream.
On live stream, and you have the ability to ask questions through the online platform as well, and I'll be able to answer them for you, inshallah.
Inshallah, very nice.
Great. Thank you everyone for listening. Make sure you throw a comment in the comment section, like if you haven't done so already, and subscribe. We'll see you all next time. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah.
I want their leader brought here. I want him brought to me. I want the revolution crushed.